Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. You've been following along. I saw you left a
Yep.
comment here. Writes and plan now. What is that
Yep.
you wrote in your planner?
The July 1st, of course, for plan,
July
because
1st.
if it's the same thing as what I did in September in San Diego, of course I have to attend a virtual version of it.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna
even if it's
do
different, actually, I'd want to go to it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you were lucky to come to our in-person one. Doesn't it seem like forever ago when we could have in-person events, Meredith?
It does. Like, wait, when was that? Like, what?
I know. We could hug and see each other in person.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna do, because we can't do it in person, we're gonna do it virtually. We're gonna invite everyone who is in class and everyone who joins us before tomorrow. Speaking of which, I'm gonna say the link. If I think someone on our team might be listening, they can add the link in the comments, because I forgot to say the link before. So thank you for reminding me. It's classycareergirl.com/join class. That's the link if you want to join the class membership and get to go to our planning events, where you get to plan out your goals. And so I have asked you, like, what was the result of that Plan Live event? Like, did you come away? Did you use your planner? Should I even ask that? How did your goals go that you set that day?
I think it gave me, it's not so much about a specific goal as it is that peace of mind that me being a multi-passionate entrepreneur is not a bad thing. I kind of got it in my head that, I had to pick one thing that I wanted to do, and that was it. I couldn't do anything else. And that meant that if I liked something else, that I had to just set it aside. I couldn't make it a business. It would have to either be a hobby or just something else. And instead it was like, no, actually you can kind of merge all of these things together. You can do something creative, and you can affirm that this is the kind of person you are, and that there are plenty of other people out there like you seeking a person just like you, and they're your target audience, or in this case, my target audience. So I think that's kind of what I walked away from it with, was just sort of this confidence that, yeah, I can actually do this. I don't need to be a guru or something. I can get started. And
yeah, you can
yeah,
all
that
of
was
the
really
skills
powerful.
and strengths that you have. You have so many. Watching you over this last year, there's so many gifts and strengths that you have, and like combining it and putting it into that
Thank you.
that career. Or not even like closing one door. Like you can do a lot of things together. So I haven't asked you. Let's start at the very beginning. Like, tell us a little bit more about who you are in your background, so we can get to know you.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name's Meredith Silberstein. I have two businesses basically. One of them's been around for a little bit longer than the other one. I got a library science degree in 2017, and so I'm cut out and certified to be a librarian. But of course, libraries aren't open right now. And I also, before getting that degree, worked retail, basically from high school on through undergrad, was some form of retail or another. And it really burnt me out. Like, it really burnt me out. I could be working for fantastic companies. I could be working for companies, big, small, Fortune 500, indie bookstores, all of them, but it burned me out. And when I got to the point of like, okay, I love books, I love technology, what's a way that I can merge them? Library science was the answer. But even so, while I was still in the library program, I had people that were like, I still want to do web design. I still want to, have you tutor me. I still want to know, how do you do this for your email marketing? How do you do that for your social media? And it was like, I can answer those things. And I love helping people. That's usually pretty abundant from someone who tends to be either in a profession like retail over and over again, where it's like all customer service, or where you look at something that's public service like librarianship. Of course, you want to help people. I think a lot of us have that urge to just help people in some form or fashion. And so that's what I started my business off of, was that here I am. I'm a librarian, so I'm really good at research. I'm good at reading. I'm good at finding the best resources for any given problem. But I also like being creative. I like writing. I like designing things. I like doing all of this stuff that if you were to ask, 5 other librarians, some of them might be like, yeah, sure, I'm kind of into that stuff. And some of them might be like, what? No, please. Uh-uh. You know, um, I think everyone has their strengths that they really love and they want to do on a daily basis. And that's true of absolutely every career, every person who's in the career that they know is their fit. If you have that confidence that you are in that role and you're doing the thing that you love every day, then it really doesn't matter that someone else with a similar job title has completely different interests or different ideas of what it means to be a whatever. And so being able to be comfortable starting a business and still call myself a librarian, because I was really worried about that. I was like, I can't call myself a librarian. I'm not working at a library all the time. And it was like, well, but you work there sometimes and your job title is librarian and you have the degree. So it was really just about being okay with that. And now my business is about information project management, which I think allows me to cover a wide range of different things that I really enjoy doing without limiting myself to just one tiny little job title or people's expectations of that job.
I
The
love
other
that.
business is tarot. It has nothing to do with
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, here we go. Here's all the things coming into play. And I love how you've discovered what you enjoy and you're kind of not willing to give up to do the things you don't really want to do in your business too. You're like hyper focused on doing what you enjoy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it. I mean, this is the thing. I am fully willing to acknowledge that there are things out there that I don't know, but I need to know what I don't know in order to decide, do I like it or not? And I think you need to be able to figure out by doing whether you like something or not. Um, a lot of times I think I have this kind of like initial fear of something, trying something new. Um, and then it's kind of like I realize this is why people eat spicy food. This is like a revelation that I had not that long ago. It's the same kind of thing. You start something new, you try a spicy food, you go on a roller coaster. It's like you're chasing this sense of excitement. And you have the option of doing that on a daily basis. So why wouldn't you keep learning, keep trying something slightly new? So, I'm eating a little bit of hot sauce every day.
I am not that person. No, in my career and business, I am. I see what you're saying though, because it
Yeah,
is
that's what I
every
meant.
day. Every day is like a different challenge and doing something new and figuring it out as you go.
Yeah.
So, what are some of those, like speaking of problems and challenges, like when you decide, to do this, what are some of the problems and challenges that you're looking to solve?
I mean, I had all of these questions. Like I said, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know, was I disciplined enough to be my own boss? Was I
Mm.
capable of getting all the nitty gritty of business figured out? And that includes things like bookkeeping and licenses and taxes and all of these different things. And I was like, well, okay, I shouldn't be afraid of like this supposed mountain of research I have to do because I'm a librarian. I love
Yeah.
research. So I saw that as like, okay, here's a challenge I'm going to tackle. The interesting part came from what are the questions that I don't immediately know the answer to? What are the things that I need someone else to kind of inspire me to think about? And I think that's a lot of the time where class or CRP is what I'm in, helped me because it's sort of like asking the questions you didn't know you needed to have an answer to, or
Mm.
asking you to find the answer to those questions because you didn't even think that those questions were a thing. So being able to look at those questions and be like, okay, you're not an impossible question. I'm going to find an answer to you. And being confident about that as opposed to being like, I'm never going to find out the answer. Wah! That would be
Yeah,
really challenging.
like drowning in that. I have no idea how to do it. Or Nella was saying like she didn't know
It's,
what step to take.
yeah, overwhelm. you easily get overwhelmed when you have essentially a mountain of unknowns in front of you. But for me, it's less about being afraid of them than it is about tackling them. It's like the idea of like you're faced with this dark black cave, right? Do you go in even though you don't know whether there's a treasure in there or a dragon that's going to eat you? I'm there with my headlamp on, and I'm like, all right, let's go find the treasure or the dragon. I like them both, you know.
Exactly.
So
You're
with my
willing to
colorful
take the
analogies.
challenge. I know.
Yeah.
You're willing to take the challenge, whatever it is. You're gonna find it out. So so how did you learn about Classic Girl?
I've been listening to the podcast for years.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. No, I think it was honestly, I have no idea how I stumbled on the podcast. I think I became like a podcast junkie one day, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, some distant point in the past. And I just started like, oh, cool. I like learning about this thing and I like learning about that thing. Oh, that looks good. Let me subscribe to that. And that's how I stayed on top of it, because every other feed that's out there gets so cluttered. You could subscribe to a page or someone's account somewhere, and there's no guarantee that you'll actually see their content on a regular basis. You have to like do something special, like you might need to pin them or star them. And if you do that with everybody, then it kind of defeats the point. But podcasts, on the other hand, it pops up when there's a new episode uploaded, and I'm like, great. I got 40 minutes. I'm going to listen to that right now.
Love it.
And actually that happened to me earlier today, and I was like, oh, I want to listen to this new episode of Anna's, and then I was just like, I don't have 40 minutes. I'll listen to it later. So that's on my planner, is listen to this later today when you're doing another thing.
Awesome. Thank you. So that's the Classy Career Girl podcast. If you guys aren't subscribed yet, go, do you listen on iTunes?
Yeah.
On iTunes and subscribe. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that works. So what did you think when you first joined the membership? Like, what did you think when you started to learn about the success path?
It felt great having guidance. Like I said, one of my challenges is knowing whether or not I'm disciplined enough to do something. And for me, where I ended up thriving a lot in, for example, the longest retail job that I had was, it had a structure. They had essentially a path of like, we had 2 weeks of training for that job, 2 weeks. And this was 1 week completely removed from the store, 1 week in the store being supervised constantly. It's a certain fruit company, for those of you who would like to know what is she talking about. I shall not name names. But it was one of those things where I really thrived in having that structure, because it gave me the confidence of knowing, okay, here are little baby steps that I can take, and here's a goal that I have to reach. And then you can confidently check that box off when you've reached that goal. And that's what I really loved about seeing that CRP had, because it's not, for me, it's not like, you have a race to a specific finish line and you're having to beat everyone else there. Everyone's got their own path. My favorite game as a kid was the game of life, right? And you have 2 paths, right? You could start out, and one person, you can just go straight to getting a job, or you can go to college. Different paths, you wind all around, you go to different places, and there's like 4 or 5 different places you could end up. And that's life in a manner of speaking. And I just really like that idea that, everyone can be at a different point, but you can all still have a great conversation. You can bring up points that other people wouldn't necessarily think to. You can offer insights from a completely different industry, and the structure of CRP is such that you can have many different people doing all different things, but we can all still talk business without it being like, huh? What's she talking about? So it's a common language. That's what I really like about it.
And I love the feedback that you're always giving too, because you're always on our weekly coaching calls on Tuesdays. You're always there in the comments. And you're always giving feedback too. I think that's one of the best things about the community too, is like you can get feedback from so many different other industries and people who've had experience doing things that you have those questions, like you were saying, you have questions. There's people who know the answers, you just need to ask and get support and put yourself out there and ask for help, because people have those answers and know what you need to do next. So did you have any doubts?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, is this going to be a thing that I can stick to and do?
Mm-hmm.
I, as I've said, I'm a multi-passionate person, and I love learning. I mean, as evidenced by the fact that I, got a librarianship degree. It takes a lot of dedication, by the way, because it's so much paperwork.
Yeah.
But it's the thing is that I was looking at it as, again, at first it felt like, okay, am I going to be able to finish this? But then I realized it's not about getting to phase 5 by a certain point in time. It's about really absorbing the content and living it in a way,
Taking.
and then
Mhm.
applying it. Because when you can do that, then you can just kind of, walk to the next step being like, yeah, I got this. Phase
Yeah. So
1
what was
done.
what was so is that your first step, like phase 1? Like what was your first step when you joined?
Well, obviously I started with phase 0. Got to start at the very beginning, even the
Yes, you
pre-beginning. Um, and I just liked the format of essentially like, we're going to set you up for success first, and you're going to have this like foundation to work from. Um, One of the things that I think was from one of the early phases was the idea of writing, 3 successful wins, or 3 things that you managed to get done that day, and 3 things that you're grateful for or happy about. I've incorporated that into my daily journaling practice. Every single day I do this. And I have a little habit tracker that tells me, like, okay, did you log your food for the day? And did you log these things? And I consider it a complete journal entry if I've done all of those things. And it just feels really good to have that out at the end of the day and just be like, yeah, I did these things. And I think this is a struggle that I think several people can relate to. But I like other folks in our group and elsewhere, I struggled with depression for a long time. And being able to incorporate a simple little practice into my day meant that I was really being reflective. I wasn't putting pressure on myself to do things that other people did. And I could find happiness and success in the little things. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't had a depressive episode in a really long time now. And that
good to
feels
hear.
really good to say, and just being able to feel like I can actually get things done, because that would often be like a trigger for me, would be like, I'm never going to be able to get all this done, you know,
Mm,
but being able to essentially take a big goal, break it down into smaller steps, and then realize, hey, wait, this is just something I can break down over the course of a week. Here's what I'm going to do to make progress toward that goal today, and
mm.
that feels amazing, because there's nothing, I think, more exciting than really being done and then putting your thing out there into the world, whatever it is. You could have spent, a month, 3 months, a year on it, or you could have spent a week working on something small, like like a campaign or something online. So it feels really good to do that.
Yeah, so many times we think of like these big goals and it's like, how are we ever going to meet that? So I love that you're just like talking about just breaking it down. It's like 1 step, 2 step, like just those like baby steps is just that one
Yep.
step forward. We don't have to, and we don't even have to know how we're going to get to the big goal either. I was just thinking that
Yep.
the other day too, is like, I have goals for the end of the year, but I have no idea how that's going to happen, And so we don't have to know,
Yeah.
right? Just
Yeah.
follow the path. So
Yeah.
what do you think would have happened if you would not have joined and if you would still have been going along that path?
Um, Probably meandering a lot, taking a lot of detours, probably, you know, never really feeling settled either. I think because I think there's some sort of like break that you give yourself when you start realizing you're on a specific path, you have a destination that you're going for, and you have, already answered questions, for example. It's just confidence, you can strut your stuff, so to speak. And you don't have that, then you're just sort of like, can I lay down and rest now? Can I have a nice night's sleep? You know, can I not look at my bank account and not have a panic attack? You know, you have a lot more confidence, I think, just on the day-to-day basis, being able to be like, yeah, I know what I'm going to do today. You know, I know what I'm going to do today for me. I know what I'm going to do today for my business. I know what I'm going to do today for my business for others. And that's just like a really good feeling, you know, knowing that you can make progress. And my my goal was like, I don't want to put a dent in the universe. I want to punch a hole in the multiverse because I'm a comic
Ah.
geek. So it's like when thinking about making a difference in the world, yeah, dents are fine. But you know what? I'm going to punch a hole in the multiverse. I'm going to make a difference in a big way with a lot of little steps that nobody sees coming. And that's
Hey,
just
if
going to be
anyone can do it, you
my
can do it. I think you're on to something here.
yeah.
Love it. So what changes what changes in your life have you made? You've shared some, which is great. But like, tell us about some of the results. I have some because I was looking up all of your CRP wins right before this. But like, what's happened now since you joined?
So one of the big things that I struggled with when I was in retail was time management.
Hmm.
It frequently got brought up as this thing that's like my weakness. And, you know, it was just like, you got to work on it. You got to work on it. And, you know, there was a certain point where it kept on coming up as a struggle. And I was basically at the point where I was like, well, you know what? I guess this is just like a thing about me. You know, it's like freckles. I'm stuck with them. I guess I'm also stuck with poor time management skills. You know, it felt like everyone was telling me to fix it, but no one was giving me the tools to do so. And so I was just kind of convinced that I was stuck like that. And instead, I've got this lesson in CRP that made me kind of like rethink like, okay, here are the tools that you can really use to break down your time management into something a little bit more reasonable. And I was I had never before encountered this idea of taking your time and like breaking it up into these three areas of like focus and flex and your sacred or free time. And this was kind of a game changer for me because I am one of those people who loves lists. And so I took my calendars and yes, I have more than one because, you know, I have like, for example, a calendar for due dates. And then I have a different calendar for Facebook events or something, you know, or appointments or whatever. And so I sorted all of my calendars into these three groups. And I actually managed to get an app that looks at my calendar, but then also kind of just hovers in the background of my computer and is like, okay, you spent X amount of time in your browser, you spent X amount of time in your email. And it's like, okay, here's what you did in those apps. You know, are you going to call that productive time? Are you going to call that sacred free time? Are you going to call that flex time? Like you were just checking your emails or something? And it's just wide opened my eyes of how much time I was spending doing every single thing. So now instead of
Interesting.
feeling like time management is this perpetual weakness of mine, and it's like, you know, if I were going on a job interview, I'd have to be like, oh, yeah, this is my weakness. But, you know, now I can say with confidence, this is a thing that I overcame. This is
Yeah.
a thing that I have essentially made into my own tool. Because before it was this just sort of like this big monster lingering in the background. And it was just going to be like this problem for me all the time. And instead, I've made it work with me. I've made it work for me. And now I'm using those tools to help others, which is great. And I shared my breakdown of my different calendars in the group. And
Yeah.
someone was like, you should teach this. And I was like, wait, what? I just, I just like learned this myself. I don't know what you're talking, but it was like, I got giggly over that. I was so happy that someone was just like, wow.
Well, that's always the
Because
best way to learn is by teaching. So,
and I just think it's also really motivating to know that it wasn't just me. I know that a lot of people at some point will look at someone else and you either do one of two things. You're like, I got it. I got it good. I'm not as struggling the way this person is. And then you look at someone else and you're like, oh man, they've got everything that I want. I suck. You know, but then there's a whole bunch of other people that we forget. And those are the people that are in the same boat as us. And there are plenty of other people like me who are struggling with time management. And maybe they struggle with it in a different way, but they would still find value in the tools that I I've used or the method that I used. And I just think that's really powerful that someone can essentially make a small change, but it makes a big difference to someone else. Just like the three things that you taught me how to do
Yeah.
blew my mind. And now someone else is like, yeah, you can teach. And all of a sudden it's like a boost to my confidence. Like, wait, I could teach something? You'd want to learn from me?
Yeah, because
You
you put
know,
your unique spin on it too. And I think that goes back to a question. I don't know if you heard that someone asked Joni about, do you ever feel like, insecurity or looking at the success of other people? And like, you may have learned something from me, but you took it and you put your own spin on it, and you can still learn
yeah,
and teach other people with it too. So I
yeah,
love that. And I love too that you're bringing up time management, because that's like one of the first things that I always tackle in the membership, no matter where you come in, because there's an assessment that you'll take in the beginning, and it will guide you to the best place to start, whether it's our job searching success path or the business growth success path. And so no matter what, though, you're starting with time management, because that's one of the biggest things that's going to hold you back from your dream career or your dream business, is not being able to have time management and thinking like, Meredith, I'm terrible at time management. But it's that thought process of thinking that's holding you back. You can conquer it, just like Meredith has.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it also has to just do with sometimes the words that we use, maybe in
Mm-hmm.
our head or even when we're looking up stuff, sometimes it's all about just thinking about things in a different way and being open to the possibility that there's more than one way to define time management. There's more than one way to define success. Someone else's success path is not necessarily your success path. You can follow the same general steps, but you have to be you the whole way through. Otherwise, it's not
Great.
your journey. And that goes for everything, the little baby steps all the way up to the big, giant steps.
Exactly. And tell us about your other CRP win. So this was this 41-page document that you did.
Okay, so there is another educational program that I'm in right now that is tailored specifically to people who want to launch WordPress web design businesses, and that's me. That's one of my things that I do as part of information project management. I design websites, and I love WordPress. So there are all these documents that are part of the program that are like, hey, you should put this together and you're going to give this to your client, and this will mean less work for you later because they're not going to be asking you all these questions about what's this, what's that, what's the other thing, you know? And so I was working on customizing this document for essentially my first official client in like this industry, kind of like I had done web pages kind of off and on for other people, but it wasn't really official. This is like my first official client, but it's also a friend, so I'm kind of considering it like a beta tester. And I still was like, you know what, I'm going to treat this like it's the real deal. Like this is like a really expensive client and they're just taking a chance on me. And so I had this, it's essentially an entire document about the anatomy of a website. And it's, if you know like anatomy books for human bodies, imagine something like that for a website. It's just more techy. So yeah, it took me a while. I was going through it and I was making sure that it was up to date, that it was in my voice, that it represented my brand, that it used images so that people could understand what I was talking about. And I think it took me a really long time. I also procrastinated on it because it was so big, but every little bit that I chipped away at it, it got less and less overwhelming until it was done. And
Yeah.
from there,
I
it just
remember your post. You were
snowballed.
so excited.
But the crazy thing is from there it snowballed, and then like over the next week after I finished that one, I did 3 more documents, including one that was almost as long, and it didn't take
Wow.
me 3 weeks to do it. It only took me a few days. And so it's like just that excitement of, all right, I got this one thing done. I shared it with everyone. Everyone was like, wow, that's so cool. Yay. And it was just like, all right, I got to keep going. I got more. I got more. And I kind of was just getting it all done, and it felt really good to just cross that off my list early on and be like, okay, now I can go into the remainder of this program not having to worry about customizing this or, setting up some workflow. It just felt really good.
Yeah, and I bet you used all those, we were just talking about those time management principles too, to now help you get these like big, what would seem overwhelming projects done, but now you can break them down using those time management tips from the membership too. I love that.
Yep, definitely.
So what do you think, what would your best piece of advice be for someone who's just considering, maybe they're like you, they have a lot of different passions, a lot of things they want to do. What would be your advice to them?
I would say that you have to pay attention to that thing that really gets you excited. For me, it's the thing that I would do and I glance at the clock and I'm like, whoa, when did it become 3 o'clock in the morning? Yeah. Whatever that is for you, the thing that you would stay up late for, the thing that you find yourself constantly either Googling or, you have 8 million podcasts subscribed on your feed about this thing, or all of your Pinterest boards have this kind of stuff on it, whatever it is that you just keep going back to, that's got to be the thing that you go for. That's got to be the thing that you make yours in one way or another. And if you do that, it honestly, I know that's like kind of a trite catchphrase or whatever, but if you find something that you love, you won't feel like it's work. To a degree, every day you'll feel like, all right, this is just something cool that I've got to tackle. So as long as you're pursuing something that really excites you, you'll never stop. And you'll not want to stop, and you'll feel really good about it.
I love this because this is what I say all the time, but you're like living proof of this. So I love that you're saying it and it's happened for you too. Like you get excited, you can tell the passion that you have.
Yeah, I mean, and it took me a long time to get here because I was convinced that I had to be working for someone else in order to be successful or in order to, support my family or make a contribution or anything like that. And instead, I have learned that I can actually do a lot more on my own for a bunch of other people than I can working within someone else's confines. Now, I still love libraries like a lot, but having my own business means right now, other people have been like, I'm struggling, my business isn't, working right now, I need to get a loan, da 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 da. I haven't had that problem, and I am so, so blessed to be able to say that. Like, it makes me not only really happy that I've set myself up in this way, but it makes me that much more motivated to help the people that haven't been able to get that kind of foothold in place. And not everybody can, not everybody will. Someone else's passion is going to be to run a business that has to be open, that has to, have a location or something like that. But I still think that everyone ultimately is going to come out of this learned that what they want most is stability somehow. And it's up to us to decide, where's that going to come from? Is it going to come from us or is it going to be dependent on someone else? And for me, I'm still going to go to libraries. I'm still going to work at libraries whenever I can, but my business is my foundation.
Definitely. Yeah. And you can use all those experiences that you have and bring them all into your business to create that unique business for you, which I love that you've done. So where can people find you online?
I am at indigoinc.solutions. That's a really fun domain that most people haven't ever heard of, .solutions, because that's what I offer. I offer solutions. Yeah. And I have a Facebook page and things like that. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, it was so fun chatting with you, Meredith, because it's always so fun to learn more about you and learn more about your background and what you're working on. So, but yeah, we might have to get you to do a member share about a class member share about your time management.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I kind of want to do something, but what do I want to do it on? Well, maybe that.
Maybe that, yeah. Oh, and by the way, you got hellos from Audrey says hello. I'm not sure. Oh, I think maybe this was Beverly. Someone said hello to you. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Audrey said hello to you. And then we got Joel says hello. Sherry is here. I know she is one of our members. Sarah is here. Good to see you too. Hello. And everyone, and I know Beverly was in here too. Carrie is here and Dee is here. All the people. I know you recognize them. So that's why I wanted
Oh
to
yeah.
show you.
Yeah, no.
Everyone.
And I just shout out to my accountability group because that is, I
Awesome.
honestly think, one of the best parts of CRP and class and all of that, because you think that you can find people in any given Facebook group or whatever, but to be able to find people that you can trust and confidently talk to and be open with your struggles, that's hard. And I love the fact that I am able to talk to these ladies and we commiserate every week. And
I
it
love
just
that.
feels really good. And I am motivated because of them to stay on top of my goals. And I am equally motivated to help them whenever I possibly can. And I'm really looking forward to the day when we can actually get together in person again,
Yes.
because I would love that so much.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, those are our goal. That's our vision for the future.
For
We
the
will set
future.
that vision.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Meredith. Thank
Yes. Thank
you.
you.